PC Sonic, the heart of your system.
I'm Leo Walder for Kit Guru. Last week I spent 3 days in Israel with Intel. This week I spent 3 days in Spain with MSI. I'm not sure when you'll see this video. I'm doing this late on Friday. You might see it Saturday, you might see it Sunday, it might be sometime next week. Because of course we've got the launches of Zen 2 and Navi coming up on Sunday the 7th. And that date has been telegraphed for ages, which makes it all the more extraordinary that MSI decided to hold an event in Spain this week connected to X570, because logically most people who might be at that event would be back at base busy testing X570 motherboards. Why they chose this week is a complete mystery to me. However, in case you think I'm complaining, spoiler alert, at the end of the event they did pulling business cards out of the box, and they handed out, I think it's either 3 or 4 prizes. I won one of them, which was a monitor with the model name Optix MAG321CQR, which is a 31.5 inch curved monitor with 144Hz refresh. So I haven't yet got the thing, it's being sent to me. I mean, can you imagine hand carrying that? But obviously I'm very pleased and very grateful. So the idea I'm going to be rude to MSI in any way, shape or form, that would be crazy. So if you think you're hearing rudeness, you're wrong. Not that. The timing of this event, so AMD announced that launches would be on the 7th of July. I can't remember, was it Computex or even before Computex, but we knew it would be the 7th of July months ago because of the 7/7 thing. So that was no surprise. So the idea MSI is going to hold an event on the 2nd of July, go out on the 1st, be there the 2nd, go home on the 3rd. Slightly surprising. The fact that much nearer the time Nvidia chose to use the 2nd of it's so funny, the 2nd of July as the launch for their super graphics cards, the Super 2060 and the Super 2070. So we were in an event with some people from AMD, a few of whom did some speaking about X570 and Zen 2 while the launch of Super was happening. Was just priceless. And it was just hysterical. Now, obviously MSI is a partner to all manner of companies, but Nvidia, Intel and AMD, and they've been a strong partner with Nvidia in laptops for a long while. So they had one page in their presentation mentioning their Super, their Nvidia brands of graphics cards, including Super. The really peculiar thing was this briefing it ran from like 9:30 in the morning on the Tuesday the 2nd through all day long through till 6 o'clock or something like that. And we had to sign an NDA in advance, and yet I don't think they said anything. There were a handful of things that they said that were under NDA that I still can't repeat at this time because I don't know when you'll see this. Pricing of motherboards is one thing, and that's frustrating. We all know that the high-end boards are going to be expensive. That's been obvious for a while. But one of the things you may or may not have become aware of in the past few weeks is there hasn't been the traditional week of sort of pre-sales of products. So you can go to AMD's website and you can see the details of the processors. You can go to all the motherboard manufacturers, you can see the details of the motherboards. You can't go to pick name of e-tailer here and head off and see what the price is going to be, for example, of that Gigabyte Extreme or the MSI X570 Godlike, to take the two most likely highest end models. And of course the Zeus is going to have a ROG model, it'll be hellish expensive as well. So you can't actually check the pricing of those products. Why AMD hasn't done the pre-sales thing, I'm quite sure they intended to, I'm not sure. I don't know what that's about, unless they simply want to keep it all as one big unveil nearer the time. So the prices of the processors we know about, prices of the motherboards at the moment you don't know about, but I know some of them. So why, you might wonder, did MSI decide it would be a good idea to get together in Spain and talk to people? Well, it wasn't just journos, it was partners as well, so those aforementioned e-tailers among others. And what was the thrust of it? So we had X570, so AMD did some talking about Zen 2 and X570, and then MSI spoke about X570 boards, obviously their specific boards, although a lot of what they said was also applicable, I would think, to other brands in terms of things like what memory speeds can you expect from which combination of chipset and how many layers of PCB on the motherboard, stuff like that, stuff that I assume I can't repeat. Because I imagine that is covered by NDA because it's kind of performance related. They said something about the upcoming 16 core, which has obviously been announced, but I can't give the details. That's frustrating. Everything else, I think pretty much that they were discussing is either public domain or should be, but there are some grey areas to do with particularly compatibility and memory. It's going to be a big talking point in the coming weeks and months, I think, because memory compatibility is not simply this speed of memory works on AMD motherboards. Pick a speed and pick the products in question and move on. There are nuances to it, and there's also a lot of back and forth to do with motherboard support, which chipset can support which family of processors. They're all AM4, but you are not going to be able to simply drop any processor into any motherboard. That's just not going to be the case. It's to do with the capacity of the BIOS chips and how much information they can store in there, how many profiles essentially. The APUs appear to be the problem because of the graphics. There's far more information required for an APU than there is for a CPU. AMD has some APUs, two Raven Ridge, and then the two new ones, the die shrinks, the Model 3000s that aren't Zen 2, those ones. So you're going to have to be really careful when it comes to compatibility. Just because it fits doesn't mean it'll work. Read the motherboard manufacturer's compatibility list, please. So what was the news that MSI was breaking? CND, which in the UK we all hear and we think CND's campaign for nuclear disarmament, but it wasn't that. It's a division of MSI. They've had a bit of a sort of a rejig of how things are done within MSI, and CND stands for computers or computing and displays. They've got three divisions. They've got graphics, they've got notebooks, they've got CND. So they were talking to us about a handful of peripherals. They're talking about a gaming chair, which they're clearly very excited about, and I can understand why, because a gaming chair is the sort of thing you can sell for a lot of money, and realistically once someone's got a gaming chair they're going to keep it for blooming years. I mean, how often do you upgrade your chair? Not that often. I imagine the margins in gaming chairs are pretty good. It's a new market. A few years ago no one had heard of gaming chairs, now they have. So I can understand why MSI wants to get involved in that. Monitors, they are really upbeat about, really upbeat. They are saying they are the fastest growing brand of gaming monitors, but then they're starting from a base of very low, so obviously growth is relatively easy, and they were being very specific about what they term a gaming monitor. Gaming monitor in MSI speak is 144Hz refresh or faster. So if you have a 120Hz monitor, you might think it's a gaming monitor. To MSI, it's not. Now you can argue that all day long, but we are talking therefore relatively extreme models of monitor. Part of the reason that MSI is so positive about gaming monitors, what they deem to be gaming monitors, is that in the past gamers weren't a defined market. The PC enthusiasts and gamers were kind of one and the same thing. Back in 2011, MSI tells us they started to market at gamers. It was a slow start and then it took off. Gaming laptops, the same. They're saying in 2015-16 gaming was their core business. I must confess I couldn't have put a date on it myself. And then in 2017 we had Ryzen came along, therefore by definition when gaming was kind of on the boom it was Intel. 2018, i.e. very recently, MSI started to push gaming monitors. And now we've got their Prestige series. We saw this at Computex. This is for creators. Now, I'm not completely convinced by this yet, but here's the logic. If you're a gamer, you want something aimed at gamers, so a high refresh rate screen or a hardware that can push out high frame rates. You don't want to drop frames, that's for sure. So a fast processor, low latency, decent power graphics card, and so on and so forth. I suppose you might say that you're not fussed about noise because you've got a headset on, but basically gamers want some oomph. That's what they want. Fair enough. Creators want some oomph. After all, if they're doing 2D work, they just want to get through the photos relatively fast. 3D work, so 3D rendering and video and such like, that's a different story. For that, you need power. We know this, and you need storage. When I did the Acer press conference in Brooklyn back in April, they were pushing a similar idea, and what it basically seemed to mean was essentially a Windows version of Apple devices, so white and silver, a relatively clean aesthetic. In the case of MSI, where you're used to seeing black and red for gaming products with their Prestige P100, it's white. Gamers want their monitors to have a high refresh rate. Creators, on the other hand, refresh, not so important, but you do want the colors to be bang on. Other products in the CND portfolio, you see you got mice, keyboards, headsets, we've seen those. Cases, now we saw these at Computex, some slightly peculiar names, Vampiric, Gungnir and Sekira. So we saw them at MSI's HQ, we saw them at Computex at Nangang, and we saw them in Spain. We haven't yet had a chance to review them. They are coming soon. I think I saw August and September. So I imagine review samples are going to be going out quite soon. I'll be interested to see how well they perform. It's tempting to think that a company that's been involved in PC manufacture for quite some years now couldn't make a mistake with a case. However, we've seen cases from manufacturers been around for a good long while that, for example, don't flow air. But that happens all the time, or the cable management is not great. These cases, the airflow looks to be there's no obvious massive vents. It's kind of neat little perforations here and everywhere, and until I actually get to test them, I'm not going to be satisfied about what's going on. At the moment there seems to be a lot of emphasis on tempered glass. You can see the RGB inside. They need to flow air, but that's common sense. A couple of other monitors that cropped up which are of interest. The Oculux range, they are G-Sync only, so there's the NXG252R. On the other hand, the Optix MAG321CQR is FreeSync. It's quite clear they are basically placing a bet on every single sector of the market. If you want a monitor from MSI, they've got one to sell you. Happily, I don't have to buy one because I'm getting one free because I won it in a raffle. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, but regardless, hit the bell button, subscribe will alert you to new videos as they become available. I'm Leo Wood for Kit Guru. That was my time in Spain with MSI.